Superheroes are dying.
No! Oh!
It's almost unfathomable, after just how cherished and successful the MCU had been, the sheer inconceivable amount of money brought in by the classic Avengers lineup and the cultural impact it had. Or after the Dark Knight movies were competing with Iron Man and the first Avengers movie. The discussion around the time was, can regular movies even survive in the era of superhero movies? Because all the people rather went to see Guardians of the Galaxy than Inherent Vice.
Dance off, bro! Me and you!
The superhero genre is now but a hollow shell of what it once was, and people would rather go see Barbie than Marvels or Shazam or Aquaman 2 or Blue Beetle, which I think all came out in the same year. Zack Snyder's DC universe is dead.
Bury it.
Sequels to billion-dollar movies just bomb. Critical acclaim is not even in the picture as a possibility at this point. Marvel tried everything, from team-ups to newcomers, failed attempts at passing the torch over and over again. Even giving movies to successful directors outside the MCU bubble, like Taika Waititi, who just took a grand old shit all over Thor, or Sam Raimi, who's a great director but was still not enough to defeat Marvel's greatest villain. Bad writing.
You break the rules and become a hero. I do it and I become the enemy. That doesn't seem fair.
Haven't you had enough? I could do this all day.
To be fair, superhero movies are not just quietly dying by themselves. A lot of outside factors help the process as well. Allow me to take you back in time for a second. The year is 2019, and Avengers Endgame is released. Well, guess what else was released in 2019? That's right, the Big C, along with good old lockdowns, depression, apathy and anger. While Endgame signified the true end of an era, closure for most fan-favorite characters and one of the longest-running sagas in cinematic history, this coincided with the audience demand for fun, quippy Marvel flicks, shifting to the brutal deconstruction of superhero tropes. Enter The Boys, Joker, Invincible, and so on. We haven't had a good Superman movie for like 50 years, but we got Joker as a sympathetic anti-hero.
What do you get
I don't think so.
when you cross
I think
a
we're
mentally
done with
ill
you,
loner
Joe.
with
That's
a
it.
society that abandons him and treats him like trash?
Evil Conqueror Superman,
Earth isn't yours to conquer.
and even Orange Man bad narcissistic milk fetish Superman, who, crazy as it sounds, is currently more successful than actual Superman. Writer strikes and actor strikes were the next nail in the coffin, and with Scorsese casually dunking on superhero movies as a cherry on top, the genre is no longer dying peacefully, surrounded by his family. It's basically getting brutally executed after becoming an object of public ridicule. Now that the writer strikes are over, and we can be finally assured the creative geniuses of Disney and Netflix are getting paid much more for writing abysmal dogshit like The Witcher series or Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
You've got to do better, Senator.
and the Nick Fury show that 5 people watched. But there's basically no end in sight for people's general rejection of new superhero movies on the big studios, because the haters and naysayers are yet to be proven wrong. Hell, one of the most badly written seasons of television with The Boys Season 4 is running circles around multi-$100 million projects with huge names, just because funny milkmen. If that is not the perfect example of just how bad the state of superheroes are, I don't know what is. But what does all of this have to do with Superman? I'll get to it in a second, but first, let me remind you that if you are enjoying this video and are interested in movies, comics, science fiction and pop culture, the best way to support me is by subscribing. DC is a whole different beast than Marvel. It never really had that all-star run the MCU had. Batman had that. As it stands, DC is basically Batman. He's the only consistently successful character. If you need proof, Batman has all the good movies. Batman has all the video games. Batman even has a monopoly on Lego DC. This year's Little Superman mech was the first non-Batman Lego set in ages. The Dark Knight has ironically been outshining every single DC character when it comes to popular media, like movies. And that pains me to see as a Batman fan. He's probably the greatest comic book character of all time, with some of the most iconic graphic novels. But the comic book DC universe does not revolve around him, and it's amazing. Green Lanterns are the epitome of over-the-top, creative comic book fun. Wonder Woman is the female hero. Barry Allen is great. Don't let this foul ghoul hack convince you otherwise. Let's just forget the Ezra Flash, please. And there's a whole army of creative, larger-than-life characters yet to be adapted to the big screen. If you've read DC Comics, you could probably name at least 10 characters the average moviegoer never heard about. In fact, tell me in the comments which characters would you like to see in live action who hasn't been done before. I'm curious to see your choices. Point is, the one hero everyone strives to be like is Superman. But why is that? Is it because he's strong or handsome? Maybe it's the red underwear. I get unreasonably infuriated when people call Superman boring, because that screams you don't know the character. But I get why it happens. The Man of Steel has been misrepresented in movies to say the least, especially in modern blockbusters, either by portraying him as a boring dork, or a brooding, dark, clumsy Jesus allegory. I'm far from a Zack Snyder hater. I don't think Man of Steel was a bad movie. Even Batman v Superman had its moments, although much fewer.
Why did you say that name?
But I feel like Snyder is at his best when he's more contained in the creative process and has to follow some sort of guidelines, like a specific source material he's adapting, as in Watchmen or 300. I get why he chose to adapt Superman in a much darker tone than the comics, coming off of Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Popular opinion at the time was that DC is more realistic and brutal, while Marvel is goofy, quippy, and easily digestible. Naturally, Snyder took a very edgy approach to Superman, but in the process he changed and omitted character traits that make Superman what he is.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
The time for an alternate, darker take on a character is when the character had been adapted into oblivion already, and there is space for something different. The people want something different. And the last adaptation involved nipple suits and ass shots, for example. You know it's the perfect time for something more grounded.
Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
Superman never got that. Now things will get a bit sappy, but that's hard to avoid when we talk about what makes Superman Superman. Pretty much everyone making a movie about him focused on the alien aspect, when in reality Superman is human first and hero second. Always. He's not the symbol of hope and goodwill because he was born that way. He was raised that way. Even though he was cast away from his home as a baby, he was blessed to be taken in by a family who instilled humanity's best values into him: kindness, empathy, and willingness to help. The Kents realized the responsibility that fell upon them, which incidentally brought out the best in them as parents. Which is what Superman does. He brings out the best in people. And the unconditional love and care he received from his parents is what makes him grateful and feel the same way towards humanity as a whole, even in the face of adversity, even when he is rejected by people or his teammates, or when he's getting beaten to a pulp by a mindless space rock monster. The Man of Tomorrow is the best of humanity partly because he is not human, and he likely would have turned out very differently if he was treated otherwise growing up. But he wasn't. So he will always stand up to galactic threats and big alien villains to protect his home, but he'll also stand up to injustice and shitty humans without ever losing faith. He will always feel more connected to planet Earth than the average human, but will still feel like a bit of an outsider. Always different, always a bit lonely. This dichotomy of hope and alienation already makes him one of the most interesting characters, which is why I hate when people call him boring and overpowered. Superman will never be boring if you adapt him faithfully. And although he's one of the most powerful comic book characters, he sometimes gets outsmarted, or outnumbered, even overpowered. And these stories make the best ones because you see an all-powerful, godlike being as an underdog. I think now is the time for everything Superman stands for. People are steadily getting out of the low points of the pandemic. I don't see the same cynical hopelessness anymore, as much as I did in the early 2020s. I think people are a bit tougher now. They don't swallow as much bullshit anymore. They seem more determined and, dare I say, hopeful. Maybe that's not the case at all, maybe I'm being hopeful and naive. But that's only fitting for a video about Superman. And it looks like the people are open to uplifting, fun, comic-accurate superhero movies again. And the ball is in Hollywood's court now. It seems like Disney and Warner are actively trying to get the audience's faith back. They just have to earn it. Marvel has not convinced me yet. The Robert Downey Jr. Doom casting feels like a desperate grasp for the lost success of previous movies. but the new Daredevil show looks promising at least. And they are visibly going for old school comic book accuracy with Fantastic Four, which I am cautiously optimistic about. But DC, their slate is clean right now. All the shitty movies are released and forgotten. James Gunn is in, and all eyes are on him, because everything depends on how good Superman is. He either jumpstarts the new era of great comic book movies and Superman saves the day and paves the way just like Iron Man did for the MCU, or Gunn misses the mark and we go back to waiting 5 years for a Batman movie once in a while, and watching cartoons about Justice League wondering how great the stories would translate to a well-made live-action movie. Judging by the Superman trailers, and the same way as with Fantastic Four, cautiously optimistic. They are clearly gunning for, no pun intended, comic book accuracy, and I'm here for it. I just really hope it's actually well written, they understand Superman's character and stick the landing. Some DC characters mean a lot to me. I grew up reading and watching them. And there's so much potential in the universe for great stories and awesome movies, so I'm naturally rooting for Superman to be a great movie. Only time will tell. Or maybe you will tell, in the comments. Let me know if you think James Gunn has what it takes to handle the DC universe. Now if you enjoyed this rant about superheroes, I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and you can be one of the chosen ones who were here first. So check out one of my videos that should be on your screen right now, and see you soon.